It's really such a great honor to be with you all tonight at this great panel. I'd like to thank Gila Kotanek and Simcha Gross and all the partners who have made this possible. It's really so exciting to see Teku moving forward tonight and to see how much they've accomplished, passionate students at this tremendous Yeshiva University, which has such a commitment to the search of truth and the empowerment for its students. It's also great to see President Joel here in the back, who at Hillel was very formative in my journey, and Rabbi Blau, who was also very formative in some of my decisions, and Rav Nadi Helfgott in my smicha training. I get a lot of chizuk tonight from those on the panel. Rav Genak was the man that the agri process was changed its leadership, and was led Kashrut in America with such success. Rav Herring, who has pushed forward a task force, which he spoke about at the RCA, to develop these business and professional ethical guidelines. And Rav Shafter, who has been an articulate and outspoken voice on issues of central importance to Judaism and the Jewish people. It's extremely inspiring and a tremendous honor for me tonight. What I want to discuss tonight, very briefly, is a little bit about my personal journey, the past, what has gone wrong recently, a Torah response, and then how we might act together. I arrived in Ghana, Africa, a few years ago with a group of Jews to work in a village. When I was greeted by the chief of the tribe, he noticed that I was carrying bags of food through the desert, which I had brought from overseas, and he asked me why I wasn't planning to eat their food. I explained to him that I was a Jew. He responded that he had heard of the Jews, and that the Jews embodied what he considered to be the most moral standards in the world, our models for sharing wealth with the needy, and for our ethical commitments for how all creatures ought to be treated. And in this moment, it clicked for me as I stared this African tribe chief in the face. It clicked for me that the world looks to the Jews to represent an elevated spiritual and moral standard. Will we embrace that? When the nation sees a hechsher, and when the world sees kosher laws, they think it's a higher spiritual and moral standard. Will we tell them that we're really only concerned with basar b'chalav? I left Ghana, as I've left many countries on Jewish service learning missions, feeling inspired by the mission of Klal Yisrael in the world to spread the highest ethical standard in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Or L'Goyim. And this is why I was so hurt when I visited Postville just a few months ago. I was walking around town with my colleague Ari Hart, visiting workers and families who experienced deep suffering at the hands of the largest kosher producer and the federal government. I recall standing face to face with a former worker from Guatemala named Maria, who was sobbing as she held her 7-month-old baby boy and explained the difficult years producing our kosher meat as she was working in nasty, hot, and bloody slave-like conditions, in tedious tasks, sometimes working overtime from 7 in the morning until 10:30 at night, with only a 10-minute lunch break, she explained to us, for less than minimum wage. I met many other women like Maria, who are like agunas, wearing electric shackles on their legs from the federal government. They cannot leave, they need money to survive, but they don't have work permits, and they can't return to Chimaltenango, their home village in Guatemala. Had we had an ethical oversight at the factory a year ago, this whole mess could have been avoided. When the Rabashkin family contacted us at Ur L'Tzedek to meet, and we met with them and required transparency, it was already too late. All we could do was help with transparency looking forward. Consumer trust had been broken by how these workers have been treated. These are the men and women who have made our meat for our Shabbos tables. Who will stand up and take responsibility for them? From listening to the countless stories of the Avodas Parach and Lachas, I realized that social justice is not some abstract concept. This is not some intriguing philosophy class about ethics and halacha. People's lives are at stake. Literally, thousands of Jews around the world have emailed us with questions and were asking us to defend these vulnerable immigrants, as literally thousands of counts have emerged from the federal and state governments tracking the alleged exploitations that were including paying below minimum wage, which many have tried to argue was a lie, but proved true as the company was fined $10 million for illicit payroll deductions, affecting over 2,000 workers over just the last 2 years. Withholding pay and not paying overtime, allegations of physical and sexual abuse, child labor. The company was indicted on 9,311 child labor violations. No adequate breaks or holidays or sick days. Nezek, tsar, shevet, rikui, boshet, damages, pain and unemployment, medical costs and humiliation. Who will take responsibility for their needs? Yesh l'davar sof. Are these the industries of the Jewish people that the African chief spoke of to me? Is this the Or L'Goyim? Are we really willing to argue that it's only anti-Semitism when others look to us to be moral exemplars? Is it not hypocritical when we explain that we want to promote a higher ethical paradigm, yet we kvetch when we actually get confronted to do so? Where is our moral courage? In the cornfields of Iowa, I realized that focusing exclusively on kashrut while failing to address the Ben Adam L'Chavero concerns makes halacha morally irrelevant, chas v'shalom. Where is our moral courage? The imperative to apply Jewish ethics broadly, even to the food industry, is why, as Jewish history professor Jonathan Sarna has verified, the Boston baked in 1974, they ushered grapes due to the extremely low wages that the migrant farmers were being paid, which they could not even live on. These Orthodox rabbis, following Cesar Chavez's lead, said that oshek, the oppression of workers, is an isser, and that it's not permitted to buy these grapes. The pasuk is right out of the Torah, as we know, Devarim Chaf Daled Yud Daled, Lo ta'asok sachir ani ve'evi me'achecha, o migercha asher be'artzecha b'sherecha. And the Rambam paskins in Hilchos Gazela, Aleph Beis, that oshek applies to non-Jews as well. And that is how it seems that the Boston Beit Din paskins. If there's chashash for a kosher lulav, we don't buy it. If there's chashash whether a food item is kosher, the rabbis say to be machmir and refrain from purchasing it. So if there's chashash for the isser, deraisa of oshek, how can we not be machmir and refrain from purchasing when lives are at stake? Where is our moral courage? This is why Rav Yisrael Salanter said he refused to certify a matzah factory as kosher, since the intense labor and toil of the women workers saying that the blood of the workers is mixed with the matzah. Where is our moral courage? The courage is to be found with Heshi Walensky, the owner of the New Deal Kosher Market in North Miami Beach, who said that he stopped doing business with agri-processors in June, shortly after the raid, because he understood that there was a connection between ethics and kashrut, and wanted to turn this Chilul Hashem into a Kiddush Hashem. His livelihood was completely dependent on that meat, but he took a stand. Where is our moral courage? The courage can be found with Aaron Feuerstein, a Jewish factory owner who in 1995 had his whole operation burnt down, yet he paid every single worker the wages owed to them out of his insurance money. He took a stand. Where is our moral courage? So we can ask, how have Chazal dealt with these issues of consumer responsibility, and whether one may purchase a product produced be'isser or unethically? In Kedushin, Nun Vav, Amid Beis, we learn that the consumer of goods produced immorally is the one who is culpable, since they have enabled for the wrong to be possible with the power of their money. And similarly, in the Gemara and Nedarim, Kaf Beis Amid Aleph, calls this purchasing to be Machzik Yidei Orei Avera. And the Rambam in Hilchos Geneva, Perakei Halacha Aleph, asking that we don't buy the goods that are procured unethically because we're Messiah the Avera. The Beis Yosef paskins this. The Gran Moshe Choshen Mishpat learns from this Gemara that one cannot purchase anything that supports wrongdoings. And Rav Schechter, in his article on Dina D'Malchus Adina, quotes the Rav to show that one cannot buy from an establishment that breaks the law simply by not paying sales tax. At an absolute bare minimum, we're bound by Dina D'Malchus Adina. Even if ethics and kashrut are not formally connected, it is connected in people's minds. It is about what is communicated when we say that something is kosher. In this spirit, certain foods may remain technically kosher, but as Jewish consumers, to patronize an enterprise which perpetuates pain and suffering in the olam to other human beings is completely antithetical to the Torah. Sitting back and enjoying one's kosher sandwich, completely neglecting whether it was produced through human abuses, may be like being toivel b'sheretz b'yado. It's a bezoyen and it's a shanda, and Jews who are serious about halacha must confront these issues. The Rav taught us that halacha is a floor, not a ceiling. Halacha is only the beginning, inspiring much higher levels of ethical responsibility. And so this is our paradox. While meat produced unethically remains technically kosher, it is unfit for purchase and consumption according to Jewish ethics. In areas where the technical halacha would not extend to obligate us, as religious Jews, we must seek hayasher v'hatov. And as Rav Gnak mentioned earlier, as the Ramban famously argued on Kedoshim to you and also on V'asita hayasher v'hatov, that if one keeps perfectly kosher but doesn't live up to the ethics that come with consumption, they are naval b'reshut haTorah. Have they eaten treif? Chas v'shalom. Have they fulfilled Ratzon Hashem? No. The Ramban says they are naval b'reshut haTorah. And so learning Yeridea for Smicha last year, every day I would ask myself, can we spread the halachas and values of Choshen Mishpat as successfully as we have with Yeridea? As Yorei Shemayim, we do not